There are things you need to know whenever you decide to purchase with domestic Chinese platforms like Pinduoduo and 1688. And it's good to know these tips before you get started because it can save you a lot of time, money, and hassle. Let's go. So the first thing you must know is that most of these platforms are in Chinese. 99.9999999% only speak Chinese. Sorry. They also may not want to speak with you in English. If you speak to their customer service in English, you have a chance they will ghost you. The phone call options and the FaceTime offered to people on the platform will be useless unless you have a translator present. If you really want to know the factory and know if it's legit and it's not just a show, it will most likely be in Chinese. Any software you download for the mobile app or the web service, it's all in Chinese and it's quite hard to translate in English. Now there are ways like using Google Chrome software, however, it's still a hassle to go through. My channel goes through steps on each of these platforms on how to understand the platforms all in English, but yeah, you still have to deal with any updates that may happen. Lastly, the products are also in Chinese. So if you buy a product like a new laptop or a new phone, expect the packaging to be in Chinese, the instructions to be in Chinese, even the interface when you turn the cell phone on to be in Chinese, unless you coordinate in advance with the supplier. So it's going to be a headache to have to open something up, open the settings, and then change it to English, if they even have the option. The second thing you need to be worried about are time limits. Don't give away that you are shipping the product overseas, because they may take advantage of you because they know there's a time limit on the platform. Some platforms allow up to 5 days, maybe even 7 days after you receive the goods to return them, no questions asked, and get the refund. But if you ship the goods overseas, especially if you haven't checked them inside the box, you can expect it to be very hard to get your money back, especially when sending replacements. Let me tell you a story about one of my subscribers. They purchased something from supposedly a reputable 1688 supplier. It was handbags and all that stuff. By the time this person actually checked the goods, about half, if not less than half of the goods were actually sent. So they ended up paying double for half the goods. I then contacted the supplier and I said, hey, what is up with this order? Here you only shipped half the goods. We want our money back. They're like, yeah, sure. Just send us the product. I think this person knew they were shipping overseas. And if you try and file and complain on the website, they know it's way too late to actually get the returns because by the time you receive the goods overseas, it may have already been 2 or 3 weeks after the fact. So they know how to play the game. And yes, there are channels in China to make a report to the government. However, a lot of these phone lines, sometimes they accept English, but you must call in China with a Chinese phone number. Can you do that? I don't know, maybe. But if you don't want to go through that hassle, make sure you know about the timelines associated with the returns. And if you do get lucky to actually file the claim on the platform before the time limit runs out, the claim sometimes goes to random people. When it gets escalated, there's different channels that can get solved. If you're using a second-hand platform like Xianyu or Idlefish, they usually grab random 7 or 14 people. They look at the case of the supplier and then look at the case of the buyer and then they make a decision. And if they're not on your side and if you can't clearly explain in Chinese what your problem is and how you've been scammed, you might lose the case. And understanding this time limits just makes it more useful to have a local agent on the ground as on why you should have a middleman when doing these businesses on Chinese platforms. So let's go into the third topic of what you should be warned about. And that's payments. These are domestic platforms, so they accept domestic payments like Alipay and WeChat Pay. Very seldom, maybe on Taobao, they will accept foreign cards. But you have to jump through hoops because if you want to try to pay on platforms like PayPal, you're gonna have a tough time. A lot of suppliers here see PayPal's taboo. They're like, the prices are crazy, the fees are crazy, because what they're used to is using Alipay. You know how much fees Alipay has to send money? 0. Now there may be fees withdrawing it to the bank account, but we'll get into that in another video. And they think about their business and profit margins. Sometimes it's very hard to get the money from PayPal to their Chinese bank accounts. So they're like, I don't want to deal with it. I will only accept Alipay or WeChat Pay. So what does that mean? If you don't have these payment processors already established, you can't pay suppliers, even if the products are super cheap. And when refunds are issued when you're using a foreign bank card, expect it to take like 2 or 3 weeks versus like 1 or 2 days when I pay with my Chinese cards. A way around this, and this requires work on your end and flexibility in the supplier, is to pay the bank directly. There are platforms like TransferWise or Payoneer that you can actually pay the customer directly if they give you their bank details. Hey, before we go to the next one, if you're finding value from this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more weekly content on how you can source from China for your business. I appreciate your time. Let's go to the next topic, and that's shipping. This is a huge one. Shipping. These platforms most likely won't and don't care to ship overseas, whether it's a certification issue or they just want to avoid the hassle overall and they don't want to open their business overseas. You most likely need a freight forwarder, and I have many videos on how to find a suitable freight forwarder for your business no matter where you are around the world. You can't just ship anything either. In China, if you buy liquids, hazards, batteries, makeup, anything like that, that's fine. But as soon as you try to ship them overseas, no. Those are hazardous items and are at risk at being confiscated either here in China or at the port if you don't do the paperwork properly. Also, if you take the risk with insurance and end up not buying any insurance for your product when shipped overseas, especially for sea freight, you are at a huge risk at a loss if it were to happen. Granted, not every boat sinks, not all the packages get lost, but in that low chance, especially if you're buying in bulk, in that low chance it actually happens to you, you are going to be out of luck and it's going to cost you a lot of money instead of putting up that insurance up front. Next, you have to consider about these returns. It's almost impossible to get these returns unless you have someone on the ground. It's possible, but it's a hassle and everything's in Chinese, as I mentioned before. If you realize there's a problem with the product when it arrives to your home country, it's too late, man. It's too late. No trade assurance there to help you like you have on AliExpress or Alibaba, and there's no warehouse locally that you can send the products back to. So essentially, there are no rules for the supplier to be held accountable once the product leaves China, especially if you don't check the goods. So getting a refund can be a hassle. And if they do agree for a refund in exchange for getting the product back to their warehouse, yeah, good luck shipping that product back into China, incurring those extra shipping charges that would cost even more than just accepting the loss of the product, and getting the product through customs in China, which you may have to pay even more taxes to get it to the factory in China. Good luck with that. And most of the time, as most of you may know, the shipping of the product actually costs a lot more than the product itself, especially in China. And the last topic I want to talk about that you need to know about sourcing from Chinese platforms is the store integration feasibility. If you plan to use Taobao, 1688, or Pinduoduo, like you can with AliExpress on your Shopify store, keep looking. Finding these APIs are hard, and they do exist. You most likely need some kind of software engineer or software integration background to actually get the store up and running. Fortunately, I have already gone through this effort on my website where you can purchase from 1688 without Alipay or WeChat Pay, and you can just use your foreign card. And I'll put that information in the description down below. Automation becomes more difficult and expensive when it comes to the monthly rental rates. So if you're planning to link 1688 or Taobao to your Shopify or WooCommerce store, expect to pay more for the monthly rental rates of having this API, unlike it is for AliExpress, because you can just simply link AliExpress into your website and start selling immediately. And that's including the product, the shipping, and everything like that. When it comes to 1688 Taobao, a lot of that information costs more to get done, and you need more third parties to be involved to actually have a complete product. Just be warned about these domestic platforms before diving into the deep end. You may even want to practice a little bit with just AliExpress at first before you want to go deeper and maybe save on your profit margins with Pinduoduo and 1688. You can overcome these issues with the right contacts, but it does take time and effort. So let's make sourcing easy. You definitely want to check out this video on why you need an agent or even a middleman for your long-term business with Chinese suppliers. Don't miss out.